Listen only mode.
Well, hello and welcome. This is Jarrett. I'm just going to do a quick sound and screen check. Would you mind typing into your questions box if you can hear me clearly and if you can see my screen? If you just type in a yes, then that'd be fantastic. That's lovely. Fantastic. Thank you. Loads of replies flying in. That's fantastic. Thanks very much for that. Okay, so this is Jarrett, otherwise known as the top-ranked AdWords trainer worldwide. And I'm here today to talk to you about what is Google not telling you when it comes to set up an AdWords account that means that 90% of every pound or dollar that you spend will be wasted, both now and in the future. Well, in the next 60 to 90 minutes, I'm going to show you the correct way to keep the money in your pocket, not Google's, and to make sure that you make money from what you spend. Okay, so right, I'm not going to enter PowerPoint presentation mode because I appreciate it might be slightly easier to see if I were to zoom in, but of course I want to be jumping backwards and forwards between the presentation and into AdWords itself, because that's why you're here. You're here to learn how to use AdWords. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay at this screen resolution for now. And today I'm going to share with you how to use AdWords to generate red-hot web leads. Okay, and here's what we're going to be covering. So if you're on this webinar, I know that you're most likely concerned with setting up an AdWords account and giving Google your money with no or very little return. You might have already done it in the past, you might be currently doing it, you might just be worried about doing it. So in the next 60 minutes, I will reveal exactly how you should set your AdWords account up so it delivers leads quickly for you without wasting cash like most of the business owners do whose accounts I audit. And when Debbie from Best Health in Bristol attended my AdWords courses, she started receiving leads for a medical insurance business that very same afternoon. You know, that's how fast, if you set up an AdWords account, it can start working. So by the end of this webinar, you will know exactly how to find out where you're leaking cash and how to fix it. So not wasted clicks and money in Google's pocket. You'll learn to avoid the default settings that you didn't even realize were there and make sure that you don't make the same massive mistakes that most business owners make, unfortunately. When Laura McCrum from Hollywood Tower Conference Centre attended my course, she added £50,000 in new bookings to her turnover within just a few weeks. Again, you know, that's how good, that's how well AdWords can work if you're doing it correctly. Nearly all the keywords were not suggested to Laura by Google, as Google's objective is to make Google money, not the business owner. So before this call ends, you're going to know my 4 crazy little tips for writing adverts that will double your click-through rate overnight. When we applied these techniques with Louise Waham from Bristol Ground School, who operate a flight school, we quadrupled the click-through rate percentage overnight. Okay, so that means that 4 times as many people were clicking the ads, and their business became so busy with incoming leads they were struggling to keep up. Now, Google does not offer you any real help with writing adverts, as it would prefer you to accept all the default settings that I'm going to warn you about later. So I'm going to show you all these settings and leave it running. Ideally, it'd rather you left it running and then went off and left it, draining your cash 24/7. So we've only got around an hour tonight, and I'm going to be flying through everything that we've got to cover. No matter how fast you take notes, at times I might be going so fast you can't take it all down. So what I'm going to do is, I appreciate I said that you weren't going to get recording of the call. Due to the troubles that we had with needing to move the call, what I'm going to do is I am going to offer a recording, and I'll tell you where you can get that recording at the end of the call tonight. That way you can listen to the call again and catch any points that you might have missed the first time around. So I hope that reassures you. Now, nearly everything of what I teach you is going to be normally hidden from you, so you won't normally have seen these things because Google created its system to make money for itself, and you know, it's not to make money for the business owner, unfortunately. Okay, now I just wanted to confirm that I will take questions at the end of the presentation. So in around about 45-60 minutes, I will take questions. So if you want to just save any questions until then that would be fantastic. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to launch a little poll, which those of you who are on your computers or iPads will be able to answer. Okay, so what I've done is I've opened a little poll that says how much are you currently spending on AdWords. So hopefully something's popped up into the front of your screen saying how much you're currently spending on AdWords, and I will then close that poll shortly and then I will report back to you the results. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, okay, so we've got 64% of you are not spending on AdWords either because it didn't work for you in the past or you're brand new to it. 34% of you are spending between £1 and £300 per month. 1% of you spending between £301 and £600, and 1% of you spending between £601 and £1,500 per month. Okay, so that's fantastic. Thank you for those results. Always interesting to know some more about the type of people who are on the call. So AdWords does work for all type of businesses. It can and it does, and I work with people in all of these industries. So it can work if you have a local business, if you're a florist, locksmith, electrician, plumber, nursery, private school. It works if you are business to business, email marketing, web design, marketing data. So these are all industries that I've worked in. And it can and it does work for many industries. B2C, e-commerce. Okay, so we've got children's clothing, plumbing supplies, ski wear, and I've also worked in B2B e-commerce as well, which we're coming on to in the next screen. So this was an example of a B2B e-commerce client. So this was business to business. They were actually selling drainage products to plumbers, so it was business to business. They were spending £2,000 a month. So this was working with Paul and Richard from Plastic Drainage. They were spending £2,000 a month and making £50,000 in sales. So these are the type of amazing returns that you can be aiming for. I'm not saying it always happens. Obviously, it takes a lot of work to get there. But you should be making anywhere between 5 times your spend and up to 25 times your spend. And that is the industry average. Second example here, one of our clients, Graham Holpenny, painting and decorating. They spent £450 so far on AdWords. They've currently used that to generate £35,000 in sales. So absolutely fantastic results that you can get from AdWords. Okay, so right, let's get ready to start jumping into the main content of what I'm going to be showing you. So to start off with, I want to talk to you about why most AdWords accounts don't work at first and why you can't rely on Google to tell you what to do. So I'm going to start off because we've got a lot of you reported back that you are not using AdWords at all. And I appreciate that many of you will be brand new to AdWords. So I'm going to start off by just doing a quick demo of what AdWords is and where it appears on the screen. Okay, just to make sure that we're all seeing from the same hymn sheet here. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of some AdWords ads, and at the same time I'm going to use this to show you what Google's looking for. So what I've done is I've just gone to google.co.uk and I have done a search for florists Bristol, and you can see that I've got some results come up. So I'm sure probably lots of you will be using Google every day. Okay, so I believe the market stats are 90% of people currently using Google, 10% using Yahoo and Bing. So, the majority of people still using Google. Okay, so I've looked for florists Bristol. Now what we've got is we've got 3 results that have come up here in a cream colour box. Now this cream colour box may or may not be clear to you on your screen because it's definitely got a lot paler over the years, and the reason for this is because Google's required to report back that it's adverts, but a lot of the time it wants, it would rather people didn't realise that they were ads. I hear from a lot of people that say, I never click adverts, so why would I bother with AdWords? And I say, do you click these here in the top 3? And they say, yes. I hadn't realised they were ads. That's very, very common. Lots of people don't realise these are ads, and Google wants to keep it that way as well. It's very happy knowing that people don't actually realise these are ads. Now, these 3 will take the lion's share. They will take the majority of the clicks. We then have normally around about up to 8 down the right-hand side here as well. So these are also ads here down the right-hand side. Okay. And we then have underneath here we have the organic results, what are known as the organic results. So we won't be talking about those today, although I am running an SEO webinar next Thursday that many of you may already be booked onto. So we'll be talking about the organic results next Thursday. Okay, so that's what the adverts are. Now on to what Google actually wants to see. Now, this here is the heading. So it says Florists Bristol, and then afterwards it says beautiful flowers for any occasion. Okay, so that's actually the heading is Florists Bristol. Beautiful flowers for any occasion is actually then line 1. And what it's done is Google's actually placed line 1 next to the advert heading. Okay, so that's why down here you can see that the heading's a lot shorter. See that? It just says Florist Bristol against that one there that says Edith Wilmot. Okay, but what I want you to notice is the fact that every time Google has found the word Florists Bristol, it's placed it into bold. That's because it matches. That's because Google wants to keep its position as the top search engine by appearing as the most relevant. So if your adverts match what people are searching for, it places it into bold. This in turn means that people are more likely to click it. Okay, so it really is as simple as that. What lots of people do is what this one here do. This is an example of a bad advert. We'll come on to adverts shortly. Excuse me. So this one is an example of a bad advert because in their advert heading, they actually say Rosina May Flowers. Nothing at all about florists in Bristol. Now that's a bad example of an advert because it doesn't match what people are searching for. We're specifically looking for a local florist in Bristol. This one, although you can see the word flowers has been put in bold because Google thinks it's similar enough, unfortunately, this just would not have the same click-through rate as this one, and even this one here, where they've gone to the effort of making sure that the adverts match exactly. Okay, so this really is the overall key to AdWords, and this is where we always start. Your overall aim is to create adverts that match what people are going to type. It's as simple as that. So what you would do is you would make sure that you set up a lot of groups, a lot of adverts, so that you can match the keywords that people are going to type. One of the main things I find people do is they try and lump together lots of keywords together, then let one poor little advert, probably what Rosina May are doing here, try and do the job of what should be many, many adverts. Okay, so that really is the overall key. So it's nearly impossible to set up an AdWords account by yourself and get it making money straight away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going to demo some default settings in AdWords to you shortly. And Bristol Grammar School that I reported back to you a minute ago, when they set up their account by themselves, they were shocked when I audited the account by what was actually happening in the account because it was being matched, and they didn't realise this, being matched against lots of irrelevant keywords that they didn't realise they were showing against, some of which were actually dangerous to their brand because they were quite worrying type of keywords. Okay, so you do need to learn to be aware of those type of keywords that might end up being matched against something random. So, AdWords is something that you do need to keep an eye on. And what happened when the adverts weren't matching it, the percentage of people that clicked the ads was 0.23%. Okay, so that's known as the click-through rate, was 0.23. When the errors were corrected and they actually matched, just like Webb's Florists and Sentiments Flowers here, the click-through rate went up to 2.56%, so it improved 1,100%. Okay, and the whole company ended up rushed off their feet dealing with huge increase in business, so once it was fixed. So that really is the type of thing once you turn around an AdWords account. Many of you will have tried AdWords and already be realising at this point that actually you didn't give it a proper go, that you tried it incorrectly. Okay, so the default settings that I keep mentioning. So here's 4 of the settings that we're going to be looking at shortly. So the display network, search partners, enhanced CPC, and broad matching. Okay, these are 4 of the default settings you have to watch out for. So I'm going to go and show you these now. Okay, so if I was to go into AdWords and I was to go and try setting up a new campaign, then these are the settings that we would actually see. Okay, so I'm going to go through these step by step. Okay, so What you may have done when you first set up your first campaign, what many people did is they selected here where it says type, they may have selected search and display networks. Now, display network was the first in my PowerPoint slide there of something that you needed to avoid. You need to avoid the display network. And it even warns you, display network only, Google's network of partner websites. Now, by partner websites, for that, what I mean is the fact that Google sells its advertising to thousands, well, hundreds of thousands, millions of blog owners, forum owners, some places that you probably recognize that you might not be too bothered about, like places like eBay, etc. But there will also be hundreds of sites that you're not so happy about your adverts appearing on. And if you were to have accidentally left this as display network only or search and display networks, which many of you will have done, so I audit accounts all the time and people who've left it on this, what will have happened is you will have automatically let your advert show, not in google.co.uk or google.com, it will be showing on all of these websites that are nothing to do with what you sell, and it'll be where all your money goes. Google makes a lot of money from the display network, so this is why it doesn't give you the warning that you need to turn it off. In fact, this is an upgraded, enhanced account, so it'll be slightly different than the one that you see for the first time. If you were to set up a new account and tell Google you only wanted search network, it would try and talk you out of it. It would give you a little warning saying, are you sure most advertisers select display network only as well? Well, of course they do. You know, that's because they didn't realize the option was there, and that's because Google's telling them, and that's because that's where Google's making all its money. You have to turn the display network off. You know, it's really, really important because nearly every penny that you spend will be wasted. So just last week I audited an account for a company that was selling glass catchers, a form of glass decorations, and 45% of what they'd spent to date was wasted with no sales, no leads whatsoever. You really must turn it off. So, you know, it is one of those that you just need to make sure you select search network only. It's one of those default settings you must be aware of. Okay, right, so next setting you need to be aware of. We're not going to go through every one. Obviously, I'm just going to go through the ones that are key to, that you need to be aware of. Okay, next one you need to look at. I'm going to zoom in slightly here to make sure that you can see it. Okay, because I appreciate my screen is quite large resolution, so I'll zoom in to make sure that you can definitely see. Okay, so under networks, we have got a tick box that says include search partners. Now the search partners, if you leave those on, they are websites like eBay, they are websites like Free Index, they are other smaller search engines like Ask Jeeves, and Orange mobile phone also has its own version as well. Now this isn't quite as bad as the display network, because at the end of the day, what it is it's a smaller search engine. These people are searching for a product or service that you sell. They're just on a different network. It's just not google.com or .co.uk. So this is probably worth testing leaving on at first, then go back and review the results. I have had people in my group come back and feedback to me saying they've been getting lots of fraudulent clicks from eBay, in which case it was a case of you needed to turn this off. That's because the clicks were coming from eBay, which was one of the search partners. So, you know, basically, if you leave it on, just be aware and make sure you review it. Okay, other things to review. Okay, so to point out to you, you probably do need to target the location correctly. Never select all countries and territories. I was auditing somebody's account a couple of days ago, and it said they had the same campaign running in multiple countries. So they had it running in the United States, they had it running across the whole of Europe, they had it running in Australia. The trouble is of course every country will have its own specific type of, you need to be using well, targeted language to start with, obviously, because the spelling's different types of terms, different keywords, and the main thing is the fact you won't then be able to do an analysis later on time of day because of course you'll have everybody mixed up in different time zones. Because of course, you know, you just end up showing ads across the whole world practically. So never select the option for all countries and territories. And my advice is always separate each country out separately. Okay, just to make sure that you're aware of the problems and being able to analyze time of day. Okay, so for many of you, probably United Kingdom would be fine. I'll just quickly just show you how to target a location quickly. So where it says let me choose, I am in Bristol, as you probably already guessed from the fact that I chose Florist Bristol. You can probably tell from my accent as well. So Bristol, if I wanted to advertise in Bristol, I've typed in Bristol, I would then add Bristol. Okay, if I wanted to do nearby towns, I wanted to do a radius, for example, I wanted to do so many miles, as an electrician or a plumber might do, you know, they want to travel so many miles. I would click where it says nearby, and then it brings up this screen here. I would then jump here where it says radius targeting. Can you see that? Okay, so where it says radius targeting, I would type in Bristol. Okay, can you see where it says 20 miles here? You can also change that to kilometres if you prefer. Let's say we were willing to travel 30 miles as a plumber. Click on the search button, and you can see it then brings up a little radius area of the area you would be covering. Now, very important, you would then need to add that area. Once it's gone blue, that means you've got it selected, okay? And we would then need to make sure we save it by clicking this button here that says done. Okay, so that will then show up just here. See that? Targeted locations, 30 miles around Bristol. We don't then need Bristol as well, so I would then remove that one. So it's just showing 30 miles around Bristol. Okay, so other options to be aware of in the default settings. Now, you really have to watch out for this one as well. At any time, basically any time Google offers you any type of automation, probably the best answer is going to be no. You know, 99% of the time your best bet's no. So here we've got I'll manually set my bids for clicks. Many of you, if you tried setting up accounts in the past, Google defaulted to this one. So this is worth checking, bid strategy. Have you set it to this one? This is what's known as enhanced CPC. Okay, so enhanced cost per click, that's what that stands for. AdWords will set my bids to help maximize clicks within my target budget. For that, Google will make sure it spends your money for you every day by making sure it bids as high as it possibly can to make sure you spend all your money. That's basically what it means. So this is what will be happening if you've automatically, accidentally left enhanced CPC on. You definitely want I'll manually set my bids for clicks, okay? And at this point, you would then possibly set a default bid of, I don't know, 50 pence or 50 cents or whatever. You can also then set that later on once you're actually doing keywords. And you would then set your daily budget of whatever you wanted to spend, you know, a couple of pounds to test with, all the way up to a couple of £100 once it's working for you, whatever works for you. Okay, so those are the default settings that you need to be aware of. Okay, so back over to my presentation. I just wanted to point out to you the fourth one on here I've not yet explained, so I just wanted to explain this to you quickly. Now, broad matching is a form of keyword matching. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'll just type on the presentation so that I can show you what I mean here. Let's say you entered a keyword like, what example should we use? We might want to use Excel training, okay, which is what I started off originally. That was what I started off advertising many years ago. This was the first AdWords campaign I did, was for Microsoft training. Let's say you entered a keyword that looked like that, okay? Now what you have done, whether you realized it or not, you've entered a broad keyword. And can you remember earlier I told you about my client who'd accidentally been found for lots of totally unrelated terms, some of which were rather worrying. You know, it was being matched against some quite dodgy, you know, pornographic type terms, etc. Okay, now you have to be very, very careful This form of broad match is very dangerous because that can happen. Now, Google will match it against anything it thinks is slightly related. Now, in this case, it might match it against anything to do with Microsoft. It might match it against anything to do with the London Excel Centre. It might match it against anything that was slightly related. So the way around this is to turn broad matching off. When you enter every keyword into your account, you put a plus at the start. Okay, so this is plus Excel. Okay, so there's a space here, making sure there's a space here, otherwise it won't work. Then plus training. Okay, so again, let me just go back to the example we looked at earlier. Plus Bristol, or whoops, not an underscore, plus florists. Okay, and that would mean that any word that has the plus in front of it, you've told Google you do not have permission to match this against anything remotely related. Google must stick to very close variations. So in the case of Excel training, we might get matched against things like Microsoft Excel courses, Excel tutorials, so very similar terms. In the case of Bristol florists, you might get matched against districts of Bristol, so Clifton in Bristol, Coombe Dingle in Bristol. So any districts of Bristol you might get matched against. You might also get matched against flowers, florists, anything that's very, very similar. Okay, so that's the fourth one that you need to be aware of, and that's when you're entering the keywords. Okay, so that was point 2. Just to remind you, I'll take questions at the end, but if you are typing questions into the box, that's fine. I will do my best to come back and answer them all at the end. Okay, so quality score, number 3, one of the most important factors that impacts every single click that is made, okay? And here's the difference that it makes. Let me show you, okay? This is a chart that shows you the difference that quality score can make to every single click. Now, let me explain what this means. Now, every keyword, whether you realize it or not, has a quality score. It's somewhere between 1 and 10. Okay, so I'll jump quickly into an AdWords account a minute, and I'm just going to show you very quickly how you can actually find your own quality score. Okay, now apologies if it's rather shaky when I jump around. That'll be down to, I've had people before say that it's a bit shaky when I jump from screen to screen. That's just the internet connection between you and me, unfortunately, so we'll just have to put up with it. I will try and go as slow as I can. Right, so to find your own quality score, we go to the Keywords tab, and we need to add in a new column. So there's a little drop-down arrow here that says Columns. We then click where it says Customize Columns. And under Attributes, we should have something that says Qual Score. Mine already says it's added. Yours won't if it's the first time you've looked at it. So you click where it says Add, and you will have added quality score, and you then apply it. What you will now be able to see is a list of quality scores which are listed, well, they'll be between 1 and 10. So you can sort the account. So quality score is a new column that's appeared here. Can you see that on the end? So if I click on it, it sorts it. Highest down to lowest. If I click on it again, it sorts it lowest down to highest. Okay, so you'll want to look at your own quality scores, but what difference does it make? What's good and what's bad? Now, 5 is the standard. If you can get your quality score for a keyword up to 6, look how much discount you get. You get a discount of 16.7% on every single click. If you get up to a 7 versus being on a 5, you get 28.6% discount. Look what happens if you can get to 10s. you get a 50% discount on every single click. And that's only versus if it was a 5. Look what happens if you have low quality score. So many of you whose accounts I audit, when I spot 3s, that means you are definitely paying 67% more for every single click, just than if you got it to a 5. Imagine if you then got it all the way from a 3 to a 10. You can start to see the difference that it will make. So quality score is one of the most important factors, and it's hidden from you by default, and you must take a look at it. Keep an eye on your quality score all the time. Now, how do you get your quality score up? The answer is you get your click-through rate up. You get the percentage of people that see your ad, that want to click it, that actually then click it, so Google makes money. So if Google's making money from your ads because more people are clicking it, it rewards you by giving you a higher quality score. And the best way for getting high quality scores is to make sure you set up small groups which match the adverts. You do not want to do like that Rosina May had done and write about yourself in the advert, not about Bristol florists. You want adverts that match exactly what people have typed as far as possible, and that will get your quality score up. In fact, it will immediately. I've had people come on the courses and the quality score will update immediately by the end of the day, just because Google looks to see if the keyword's in the ad anywhere. If it does, it updates it a small amount immediately. So those of you with new accounts that try this, you'll get quality scores of 5 and 6 pretty much straight away. When you start getting high click-through rates, then you'll be getting your 10s. So that's how to get your 10s, is you just quite simply just make sure the adverts match the keywords. It really is as simple as that. Okay, so now on to my 4 weird little tips for advert writing, which should double your click-through rate overnight. So this is how to write great adverts, basically. Okay, so to start with, you write in what's called title case, where you capitalize the first letter of each word. Okay, so title case. It will look strange at first, and the whole advert needs to be written in it, not just the advert title. So it's the whole advert needs to be written in title case. That alone has been proven over time to increase click-through rate. Okay, so it's no longer worth testing. It's been scientifically proven time after time. That's what everybody now does. It's the accepted, it's the accepted best practice. Make sure your keywords are in the advert heading, not your company name. Okay, so you're going to want lots of adverts for lots of keywords. You could try asking a question. So this really, really works. So a question, people love it when you ask questions because they subconsciously want to answer it, and they subconsciously want to click your advert to see what the answer is. They want to answer it. They can't help themselves. So if you try asking a question that they subconsciously think yes to, they'll click your ad. Your click-through rate will possibly sometimes double, triple. I've seen some amazing results with well-worded questions. So the type of question that you could try would be, it could be something as basic as looking for a florist in Bristol, ? That's quite a basic question. It works. Okay, even that alone would increase your click-through rate. You could try testing something like, well, I've been running adverts for Google AdWords training. I've tried running ads like, do you want to get on this front page? Because obviously that's why people are wanting to learn AdWords. They want to learn how to get on the front page. Okay, so you just try wording a question that is, that they subconsciously think, yes, that's what I want. And then my 4th little tip, before we jump in and go and have a look at some examples quickly, include figures wherever possible. So include numbers in your ads, and that should be things like dates. So if you're having a sale, if you've got an e-commerce website, tell people about it. Sale ends 31st of September. That doesn't make any sense. Sale ends 30th of September. If you've got an e-commerce website that you can include prices for, put the price in for the product. If you've got a service website, for example, you're an electrician with a fixed fee of £100 for a call out, put that in there. People like numbers. They're attracted to numbers. It will get the clicks. So let's just jump in and go back and use what we just spoke about there to go and reanalyze these. Okay, so in fact, let me try a different example. See if anybody's using questions. Okay, so I've just looked for PVC banners. We've got no questions here that I can think of. We've got prices though. So we've got Vistaprint have got prices. Vistaprint have got seller reviews. I'm often asked about these, so while we can see them, just to point out to you what they are, these stars will automatically link across once you've collected enough of them. So there are plenty of review sites. You can either just do it in Google Shopping itself, or there are plenty of review sites. Trying to think of one. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But there are plenty of review sites where you can then collect these reviews, and Google will then automatically feed them across into the advert. We've got another one here which has got prices. Okay, we've got 30% off and prices, this type of thing. Okay, so we've got an interest, we've got a testimonial written in an advert there. I like that. So 650 plus reviewers say amazingly easy. That's different. I like that. That stands out. Okay, we've got a call to action in this one, order online now. So you could try calls to action. Basically, you can try testing as many adverts as you like to see what works. That's the beauty of the internet, is you can just test as much as you like. Okay, no other ones that are standing out there at the moment. Or maybe order by 11 AM for next day delivery. That's, if you were in a rush, I could see that would probably draw your attention. And if you were offering a service that was, where time was of the essence, locksmith, electrician, plumber, etc., then it's, call now for 30-minute response. That type of thing definitely does work well. Okay, so that was adverts, some really good examples of adverts that we just spotted there. Okay, so point 5, you absolutely do need to then be tracking if AdWords is bringing you any sales or leads. Okay, of course it could be sales if you've got an e-commerce website, leads if it's a lead generation website. Okay, so that's why I use the two interchangeably here. So what you should not be doing is what's called optimizing blind. It's really hard work trying to optimize an account when you can't tell what's working and what isn't. You need to track conversions somehow. So what you do not want to do is just have an email address on the website. Ideally, remove your email address from the site completely. I'm always asked why. The answer is you need to make sure you're tracking by a form instead. You want a contact form, a callback request form, some type of form that people can fill in, where they then end up on a thank you page that says thank you for your submission, we'll be in touch shortly, blah, 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 that type of thing. The reason for that is you can then track the exact keyword that brought you the sale. If you only have an email address, you can't track it. There's no way of tracking it back to AdWords. So you have to have a form. So go back and check, is your email address on the site anywhere? If it is, remove it. Maybe you could have send an email to us as a separate tab, and it says send us an email, and it's actually a little form that they know will then come, that they know will be emailed straight to you. People don't mind. They understand. You don't want to put your email on your site because there's so many spammers around. It's very common for people, they're used to having to fill in a form instead. If you're worried about the spam through the form, get a captcha, one of those things so that you don't end up with spammers because they've got to enter a security code. Okay, so the reason why you need to make sure you're tracking these sales is you should then be looking to see what's working. Put the bids up if it's working. You maybe delete keywords that aren't working, or put the bids down. You're willing to pay less for keywords that aren't bringing you any phone calls, that aren't bringing you any sales. Okay, so it's absolutely essential to be tracking if AdWords is bringing you any sales. Now you can also track phone calls. There are a number of ways of doing so, some more expensive than others. There are a couple of very good call tracking systems. one called Ad Insight and one called Infinity that I'm aware of, and they will track back and tell you the exact keyword that triggered a phone call. And they do that by changing the phone number on your site dynamically. So you put some code on the site that changes so that every visitor sees a different phone number. Very, very clever, but quite pricey when you're first starting out. So I think it's £100 a month to start with, and then you pay per call. That's what I believe it was when I last checked. There is a far easier way of tracking phone calls now as well. If you have a mobile website, you can track phone calls from the mobile site fairly easily. There is a way of setting up a conversion in AdWords that means as soon as somebody clicks the phone number on your mobile site, it triggers an action, which is, the help documents in AdWords do talk you through how to do that. But unfortunately, you can only track phone calls from your mobile site. It won't help you track phone calls from your main site, unfortunately. Okay, so that was tracking and making sure that you look at your results. Okay, so why can't you leave your AdWords account running by itself? What will happen if I leave it running? Well, quite simply, you'll get huge amounts of wastage. Your adverts need split testing. What do we mean by split testing? You need to see which advert's doing best. You need to have 2 adverts running for each keyword at any one point. You need to see which keyword and which advert is working best. You need to delete the poorly performing advert and create new ones. Basically, you should always be creating new adverts week after week after week after week until you get the highest clicks you possibly can from an advert. It's how you'll get your adverts better. Okay, you just need to continually keep trying to get them better week after week. Now, you'll also get new keywords that are discovered by Google. You either need to remove them because you don't want them, or you need to add them back in as new keywords if they're good keywords. Okay, so that image there, what do I mean by this? I once found from running a report that my Microsoft Excel adverts had shown for the keyword dog training. Okay, this is before modified broad existed, by the way. So I showed you about broad and modified broad earlier. So the only way I could have told that is because I was maintaining the account, running reports weekly, and Google had matched my Microsoft Excel training advert against somebody that was looking for dog training. And the only way you can spot these things is by running these reports. That's the type of random thing that you need to keep looking at the account for. You can't leave it running by itself. So you'll want to add negative keywords. In this case, I added the negative dog because that meant I would never show up for the word dog, dog training, dog courses, anything like that. You will probably also want to add other negatives, free, jobs. You get loads of job seekers. You'll end up getting lots of clicks from job seekers unless you add every type of job word you can possibly think of. Jobs, vacancies, positions, as many as you possibly can. Otherwise, you're going to end up paying to get people asking you if you've got any jobs. Other negatives that might be useful is I was working once on a golf insurance account, and they were bidding on a keyword golf insurance. They were accidentally being found for keywords such as VW, as in Volkswagen golf insurance, and that was where we had to add VW as a negative to prevent that happening. So there are some quite clever negatives sometimes that you need to find. It's not always obvious, like dog and free. It is sometimes some negatives that you just wouldn't be aware of to start with. Okay, so how are you going to stop leaking cash? The one thing that you should be doing in your account weekly, okay, you should be running what's called a search query report. Let me show you how to run one of those. This is where you will spot the dog trainings, the job seekers, all of those crazy keywords. What you will want to do is in your AdWords account, you set the time frame for a certain time frame that you're happy with. So you can normally do it for no less than 7 days. This is one of those reports you will want to do last 7 days. You want to run that report once a week. When you do it the first time, you may want to run it for all time. when you run it for, or you could just run it for the last 30 days, something like that, because all time does show a huge amount of data if you've got a very old AdWords account. Now you would need to, again, make sure you're in the Keywords tab, and this is really well hidden. You just wouldn't know it was here. You go to Details All, okay? So we're Keywords, Details All. Okay, and then what that does is it shows you all of the keywords you've been matched against, some of which at this point you will scroll through the list, so you can download the list and play with it in Microsoft Excel if you want to. You will go through your list, and at this point you'll start to see how much money you've been wasting. You'll find lots of keywords that you need to add in as negatives, lots of keywords maybe they've been converting. Maybe you hadn't realized that you needed to add that keyword in as a new ad group. If you add in as a new ad group, that means that keyword will bring you even more leads, okay, because you didn't have an advert that matched it so far, but running this report means you've now spotted it's a really good keyword. You know, that's the type of thing that you're going to be doing with this report, and you would then do this once a week. And this means that if you're adding your negatives, creating your new keywords, you will stop leaking cash. Okay, so right now I did pop in an extra bonus as well that wasn't included because I get asked about this so often. I'm just going to very quickly show you how to stop competitors from clicking your ads because I get asked about this all the time. So to stop competitors, I use a software which is called clicky.com. Okay, this is free for the first website, and it shows you who's visiting your site and how many times they visit. Okay, as simple as that. But the best bit is it shows you their IP address, so you can see if your competitors are clicking your ads all the time. Now, my husband is a locksmith, and it's one of the campaigns I've had to continuously monitor. And we have a list of, I would say, probably about 200 IP addresses that just kept clicking and clicking and clicking. Now, you can block the majority of IP addresses. There are times when people are searching from mobile phones, for example, and you can't block those IP addresses. Basically, you're just blocking as many competitors as you can. Okay, so once you're in clicky.com, this is what it will look like. Okay, so I'm in the correct website so that I can demo it to you. I've gone to the Visitors tab, okay, which is the second tab along. I would then go to Most Active Visitors. Okay, so just to confirm here as well while we're waiting for it to load. Clicky is a tracking code you need to install in the same way as Google Analytics. It's very simple. If you've got a WordPress website, it's just quite simply a WordPress plugin that you install. Dead easy. But it will only start working from the day that you install it. So you can't look to see if competitors were clicking previously. You can only look from this point onwards, you know, so it is worth getting Clicky on your site as fast as possible. Okay, and at this point, I can start to see the IP addresses of people who have been visiting repeatedly. Okay, so you can see I've actually tagged my own IP address there with us at home. That's my work IP address as well, though I need to tag that one. But anybody who's visited multiple times, I would normally go and look at. So this person's visited 3 times in the last 90 days. Okay, let's go and look to see what clicks they've actually made. Now, what you're then looking for is if they came from AdWords, it's got a green dollar symbol next to it. Okay, that means it was a paid advert. This one didn't come from paid advertising, okay, because it's not hasn't got a green dollar sign against it. These two, you can see this person clicked at 11:51 and then again at 12:59. They used keywords Locksmith Bristol UK to start with, then Advanced Locksmith Service in Bristol UK. Only an hour apart. Probably, to be honest, that probably was a genuine customer, so I wouldn't worry too much about that one. The ones I'm looking for are, and unfortunately for your sakes, I'm not going to find any I can demo to you today that are fraudulent because obviously I've blocked so many hundreds of them. You will find people that have clicked and clicked and clicked repeatedly, and the type of person that will do this will probably only stay 10 seconds because they're clicking, staying 10 seconds. You can see this person here, say 29, then 30. So you're looking for the people that click repeatedly. Now Google does have its own click fraud removal technology that will stop people from being able to click 10 times on the same keyword in the same day. Basically, you'll only get charged for the first one. But if you think about it, locksmith, the keywords can be anywhere up to £20 per click. Extremely expensive. If that person clicks once per day, £20 per click, that's £140 per week. You can start to see how even though they're only clicking once, they're still costing you a fortune, especially if there was dozens of them. Which is, in the case of some of you, you may find that it's a very competitive environment. I've worked in some environments, like, I've worked with charities where there is, this just doesn't happen. They don't click each other's ads. It's not an issue. And I really hope it doesn't happen to you. But I've popped this in today because obviously I get asked about this so often. So I hope you appreciate me showing it to you. Now, once you've got the IP address, okay, let me zoom in slightly so you can see that a bit better. So the IP address is here, and that signifies where they're based. I'm going to copy that, so Control-C to copy. I would then go into the settings for a campaign. Let's pick a campaign, okay, and what you would then be looking for, okay, so let me just go through that again a bit slower. So settings, all settings, near the bottom, we'll have IP exclusions. Okay, now IP exclusions, once I've clicked that, it says manage IP exclusions. If I click where it says edit, okay, we would just pop that in there and then save it. Okay, no, I'm not going to do that obviously because this wasn't the correct account. Okay, but it's in IP exclusions. Now, what will now happen is that person will now think you've stopped advertising completely. They won't see your ads, so they'll think they won. They think that you stopped advertising. It's very clever how it works. Unfortunately, if they then search again from a different IP address and a different location, they'll still see the ads. Not a lot we can do about that, unfortunately. So you just block as many IP addresses as you can. Okay, so I just wanted to confirm to you as well, there's no magic button with AdWords. So, you do have to work on your AdWords account weekly. You should be testing new ads, finding new keywords, looking at your competitors as well. What are they doing? Are they copying your ads? There has been times when I have created a question and I was getting amazing click-through rate. So click-through rate was up in like 14–15%. You then monitor your competitors, check out what they're doing, and you find that they've started copying you and started writing questions as well, and are copying what you're doing very quickly. Always got to be checking your competitors. Are they copying what you're doing? Again, weekly, you should be editing the bids up and down, looking at your landing pages. The landing pages are the page that people land on. So ideally, you wouldn't be sending everybody to the home page. You would actually set up specific pages for as many of your services or products as you possibly can, and that should increase the number of people that buy from you. You should be monitoring the split between your mobile ads, iPads, PCs. You can actually pause the mobiles, where you can turn the bids right down for mobiles if you haven't got a mobile optimized website, for example. You can actually also put the bids up for your mobile campaign. So for my husband, Locksmith, I actually set the mobile bid modifier as high as it will go. You can actually put it up by 900% because people are 4 times more likely to convert from a mobile phone. And I've got a similar situation for a client in Denver who offers bail bonds to help people get out of jail, and they obviously need help immediately. So mobiles is worth looking at as well. Okay, so by now you've learned why most Google AdWords accounts don't work, why you must avoid the Google default settings, why quality score is the key to cheaper clicks, my 4 little tips for writing amazing adverts, why you must be tracking if AdWords is bringing you sales, why you can't leave your AdWords account running by itself, where your cash is going, and of course I then added on how to stop competitors from clicking your ads as well. Okay, so for those of you who would like to learn more about AdWords, then I'm just going to quickly go through. I have created a blueprint which is called Red Hot Web Leads. So if you want to get AdWords working as fast as possible without putting all your profits into Google's pocket, then I've actually created a model that allows you to start making money as fast as possible with AdWords. You just take the system, there's lots of videos, follow all the steps in it, and you model it for yourself. So I'll actually give you step by step what to do and how to get your AdWords account set up properly. So examples of great ads, templates, all you have to do is research the keywords based on your market, duplicate it, and get sales in through AdWords very, very quickly. But remember, AdWords is not a magic switch, and you do actually need to work at it. So you can't expect it to bring in leads immediately just with a couple of keywords and 20 minutes work. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so if you're new to AdWords, then AdWords can work for you. Okay, so here's a testimonial from one of my clients, Mike Bellum, who owns a company called True Light Sound. If you're using AdWords already, then my product can help you. Okay, from Gary Miller here, who thought that he was an expert already, so he learned lots that he was able to apply. If you worry about finding AdWords difficult, then hopefully you'll agree that my training is clear, easy to understand. If you're technically minded, then AdWords is still for you. This is Daniel, he owns a mobile agency. If you are in the B2B market, okay, like Laura from Hollywood Tower, who added 50,000 per year once she attended the AdWords training, or if you've got a larger AdWords budget. So some of you may recognize this chap. So this chap is the one who's responsible for me putting on this webinar today for Names and Register 365 customers. Okay, so I also work with Names and Register 365, which is why the webinar has been put on today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just very quickly demo the system to you, and once I've demoed it and explained it to you, we will then open up for questions in a few minutes' time. Okay, so the Red Hot Web Leads system is a step-by-step support system which currently has 38 step-by-step videos in it that explain every different aspect of AdWords, right from beginner all the way up to, I have people in the course who have trained to become consultants and now offer AdWords services themselves. You can book in account audits where I will review the account. We've got a group call every Friday. So if you've got any issues that you want to run by me, any questions at all about AdWords, then every Friday I'm there for you to talk to. 2 private calls to discuss your account privately with me. And then it's regularly being updated with new, well, in fact, it's weekly additional content, and then regular updates as AdWords changes. So here's what the system looks like. I will just demonstrate it to you quickly. Okay, so it is a membership site which contains multiple videos that teach you how to set up AdWords. Okay, so if I jump quickly into setting up AdWords, okay, so you can see that we have got 17 videos down here for how to set your campaign up. So the overall aim for the course, understanding keywords, buying keywords, keyword research, keyword match types, how to structure campaigns, navigating the interface, setting up your campaign, adverts, adding keywords, negative keywords, split testing, click-through rate, quality score, tracking conversions, clicky web tracking, and the process. Okay, we've then got the second section, which is what to do on an ongoing basis once it's set up. So we've got managing AdWords. So where's the money going? Stopping your competitors clicking your ads. AdWords Editor is an offline tool that I teach you how to use. So it teaches you how to manage your campaign extremely quickly. Display network remarketing. So some of you might have heard of remarketing before. Remarketing follows you around the place. So if you've ever been followed by any spooky ads, then that's what it is. Dynamic keyword insertion. Okay, competitor research, how to do it, how to actually download the competitors' keywords that they're using, that they're bidding on. ad extensions, examples of a live account, time of day reports, automated bidding rules, when to use them, of course, very important. Okay, so there's only certain times you should use them, and then how to share budgets between them. We've then got bonuses as well. We've got a spreadsheet that allows you to upload anywhere from 50 up to 2,000 ad groups or even more extremely quickly into the system that we've devised. How to pass your AdWords exams if you're interested in becoming a consultant yourself. Examples of ads, a copy of my book, and then a few other things as well. So processes, etc., more videos, etc. We've then got weekly calls. That's where to actually book in for your Friday calls. And we've then got lots of other areas as well that I'll come on and explain very shortly. Okay, so that's a system, and that's what it looks like, and it comes complete with manuals, etc. Okay, so the Red Hot Web Lead system is the same as my face-to-face courses, which some of you will have seen my website, helpwithppc.com, which is where I offer AdWords and SEO training face-to-face to people. And so it's the exact same videos, manuals as the face-to-face courses, which is charged at £790 plus VAT. We then add in the group mastermind calls. So we've got calls every Friday, or if you can't make it to the call, you can just watch the recorded call. If you've got any questions in between the calls, then there's a support forum where you can ask them and we'll jump in to answer them. Your 2 phone calls with me, so these are normally charged £150 each, so that's they are £300 value. So you've got 2. Normally you'll want to book that first call in as soon as possible. So once you've booked, you would then go into here where it says bonuses. There is a link to actually then go and book your first call. So, okay, you actually literally just click here to book, and it takes you straight into my calendar and allows you to actually book a call straight in with me, straight into my calendar. Okay. Right, then what I'm then adding in for names and register 365 customers, and we've only got space for 20 of these, obviously, for my team, because otherwise we'd be rushed off our feet, is we'll actually do the setup for you, which on my website, clairejarrett.com, you can see to actually have the setup done for you is £497. So we'll do that for you free for the first names and register 365 customers, or if you're not one of their customers that you're on this call, you'll still qualify. For the first 20 people, we'll actually do the setup for you. We will need you to provide a list of the keywords that you want us to use or analyze, because obviously you know your market best, but from that we'll then actually take over and do the setup for you. Okay, so here's the offer. It's £297 as a one-off fee. Then there's a regular ongoing fee of £39.50 a month. And I have got options on there without VAT. So if you're based in Ireland, Europe, or the States, or elsewhere in the world, then there is an option to actually buy without VAT, obviously, because you won't qualify to pay the VAT. Okay, so let me send you the details of where you can find the offer. Okay, and then if I just quickly demonstrate it to you. Okay, so this is an offer only for people who are on this call tonight. Okay, so what will happen is it explains to you all the things you get. You get all the things I've spoken to you about. Okay, now the price is going up. You can see on the main website, redhotwebleads.com, the price is going up from $297 to $397 on Saturday. So, it is about to go up, just to explain that to you. Now this button here that says Get Instant Access, that's the one if you're going to pay VAT. This one is if you're not paying VAT. Okay, so if you're not paying VAT, then I will need, if you're based in the EU, I will need an EU VAT number from you. So we'll contact you and get that from you probably tomorrow or the next day. And quite simply, you just click on the button, okay, and it takes you through and then just sets up a PayPal subscription. And it will let you in immediately. So you'll be able to set up a username and password within 5 minutes. It works that quickly. And you'll then be able to get in the system, book on your call, book your call for Friday, book your private call, etc. Okay. Now it comes with a 90-day guarantee. So once you've worked through the course, if you're unhappy with it, then let me know and you get all your money back. Okay, so you, just to explain to you a couple of the other questions as well that I normally get asked by people. What's the monthly membership fee for? Basically, the site is a membership site. The monthly fee is for the ongoing updates, the weekly calls, your forum. You can cancel at any time, but once you cancel, you can't get into the site anymore. That's because it's a membership site. So you pay as long as you want to remain a member. Now, the support you get on an ongoing basis is your weekly Friday calls and your support group. So if you've got any questions at any time, you simply pop them in there and we'll answer them. How much time do I need? So this is a big one for people. How much time do I need? Normally, an hour to 2 a week in the first month. So maybe watching an hour of videos, maybe your second hour actually doing some of the setting up. That should be sufficient depending on the size of your account, on number of products you've got. So how would you get started? You quite simply, after you've bought it, you book your first call in with me and we can take it from there. So in the meantime, do watch all the videos. It's set up so you would watch the videos one by one all the way through. Okay, so you are supposed to watch the videos all in order. Don't skip them because you might miss something essential. And if your site's not quite ready yet, which some of you have bought brand new domains might find yourself in this situation, we can use your first call to talk about your landing pages, your site design, getting the site ready for AdWords basically. Okay, so if you've got any questions at all, then we will open the phone lines after this, okay, and I will be available on the phone. My team will also be available on the phone. They'll take a message and I will be able to call you back if I'm already on another line. So quite simply, there's the phone number. You can give me a call. If you want to order by direct debit instead, then that's absolutely fine. Let me send that to you again in a minute, okay? But this offer is open until Saturday, and the setup's obviously only for the first 20. So we had, I think it was 473 of you book onto this call. So, we are expecting the first 20 to go fairly quickly. So if you want to check first that the setup's still available before you buy, then do. Right, okay, so thank you very much for listening. I'm now going to jump over and start answering some questions. So I'm expecting there's going to be a lot of questions. Obviously, there's a lot of you on the call. So if I've missed your question, then do feel free to type it back in the box in case you're worried that I've missed it. Okay. Right then. Okay, so we've got a question from Tina. Any suggestion of AdWords on canine photography, says Tina. Okay, that's an interesting one, Tina. I would suggest you would probably want keywords like canine photographer and then your area. So canine photographer London, for example, something like that, dog photographer, pet photography, those type of keywords. So Tina, yeah, that would be what I would suggest. Stefka says, can you advertise cigars with AdWords? Stefka, I'm fairly sure that you cannot advertise any form of tobacco product, unfortunately. I believe you are allowed to advertise cigarette replacement products like e-cigarettes, but not cigars or cigarettes, unfortunately. Okay. Sorry, I'm laughing because I've scrolled all the way to the top and I've got a question from Charmaine saying, please can you mute us when we start, when you'll hear our live chats. Charmaine, yeah, don't worry, everybody got muted automatically as soon as we started. I wouldn't mind being able to hear you chatting though, but you can imagine if we had a couple of hundred people all chatting at the same time, it might get a bit noisy in here. Right, okay, so Nigel says, I find that a lot of people I know have no idea the top ones are ads, partly because the shading's very light. Yes, Nigel, that's very true. They definitely started making the shading very much lighter as well. Andrew says, would you say that for UK and Ireland, separate them or not? I'd probably be tempted to, yes, Andrew, because the results might be very different by different country, especially because, of course, if you're going to advertise if you're going to advertise prices in your ads, you will want one in euros and one in pounds. A couple of you saying that at points the audio had come and gone slightly, so apologies for that if the audio was kicking in all right. The good news is that the recording will be fine because the audio normally is, well, basically the recording is actually on my hard drive. The audio would have been direct to you, so the recording will be fine. Michael says, did you say Ad Insight? Oh, Ad Site. Yeah, it's called Ad Insight. Let me just type that to you so that you can see that. I've not used it for a little while. I'm more familiar with Infinity call tracking. Let me type that one to you as well. Lisa says, how do you know how much to bid for words to start with if you've never run a campaign before? Yeah, that's a good question, Lisa. Normally I would say enter a test bid that you can afford to play with and see how you get on. So you'd want to set up a few very targeted groups and probably have keywords of, say, maybe be bidding 50 pence or £1, something that you're willing to play around with. If the 50 pence only gets you right down the right-hand side, you probably need to increase your bid. So yeah, I would normally just try entering a test bid to start with. And at the end of the day, it all depends on your market as well. Locksmiths, for example, £20 per click that I warned you about. AdWords courses, £20 per click. SEO services, that's something ridiculous like £25, £30 per click. So yeah, it can really be expensive in certain markets. Hassan, I'm not sure what you meant by how to make my iPhone apps from top 100. I'm not entirely sure what you meant by that question in relation to AdWords, so perhaps you could clarify that one. Neil saying something about IP exclusions not working with dynamic IP addresses. Yeah, I've been told that before. As I said, you just block the majority of people if you possibly can. Michael, we've not discussed exact phrase or broad match, but just spoken about broad and modified broad. We do go into that in the course, the other forms of keyword matching. Timothy says, any suggestions for AdWords on a will writing and estate? Right, that's a brilliant one. That would be prime for AdWords, that would. It would be keywords like will writing, Bristol, will writers, Bristol, estate planners, Bristol. You're going to want the local keywords with every town that you're willing to cover, Timothy. Maria says, can you tell us the date and time details of the SEO training next week and how we can access it? I will pop that link in very shortly. Just trying to think how I can find it myself. I think what I'll do, Maria, is when I send round, because I'll send round a link reminding you about the recording for this, and if I pop it in there, Maria, is that okay? Because then you'll be able to register for the SEO webinar at the same time. Mona says, any suggestion on AdWords for online maths education? I would be looking for things like maths tutors, and you could possibly then try and change their mind with, if they were looking for a face-to-face tutor, you could have ads like, looking for a maths tutor, come and view our online courses instead, or something like that. So it would probably be around maths tutor. You might want some other keywords like GCSE maths help, Key Stage 1 maths help, passing the 11 plus help. All those type of keywords as well would be relevant. Okay, so Daniel says, with tracking, you say run a specific ad and then change it, if so, how long for each ad? Well, normally you would run it for at least 100 clicks, Daniel, until you can see that one is clearly outperforming the other. Okay, so some of you, if you're spending quite low budgets, that could probably take a few weeks to achieve. Some of you, I've run cases, well, I've been running ads for names.co.uk, and we were able to split test within minutes because there is that much volume in the market. You know, people were searching that we had 100 clicks so quickly. So it would normally be 100 clicks, Daniel. Jessica says, have you got any tips for an interior design company selling cushions when coming up against the likes of John Lewis, etc.? I would say make sure that you use the Google product listing ads. So the product listing ads we've not spoken about. Let me demo those to you quickly because we did see them. Okay, so if I go into PVC banners. Okay, now these here are the product listing ads. Okay, the best thing about the market, the best thing about Google is that it levels the market. So you can bid as a small company against John Lewis. So at the end of the day, it gives you the same amount of advertising space as John Lewis have got. They can't control the entire space. They only get one link on the front page as well. So the product listing ads are here, and they are a slightly different form of AdWords advertising, and you need a merchant account as well. And a merchant account is fairly easy to set up, but you do need a website. Your website designer needs to have created a product feed that then goes directly into the merchant account. So I would definitely suggest looking at those. Other tips I would say is perhaps make it about custom made if they were custom made, or try and find a USP for your company that will make you stand out against John Lewis. Whether it's, I don't know, faster delivery, whatever your USP is, really, you'd probably need to have a long, hard think about that one. Maybe, Jessica, as well, maybe you could consider custom making cushions if they send you, or maybe that you could actually have cushions and curtains to match, something like that. So something that makes you stand out and be different. I don't know the market very well, but those type of things, they might work, Jessica. So James says, what type of keywords for a wedding and party balloon decoration website based in Staffordshire? You would want things like wedding decorations, Staffordshire, balloon, I'm thinking balloon entertainer, but no, it's not balloon entertaining. Balloon, it's going to be around weddings. So yeah, wedding decoration, Staffordshire, wedding decorators, Staffordshire, balloon decoration, Staffordshire. So basically everything that you can think of that mentions the town names you're willing to travel to, James. Marty says, we sell Irish horses. Would horses be an expensive word? And how would you make it cheaper? Oh, Marty, what a fantastic market. Do you know, I don't even know if you can sell horses through AdWords. I am actually going to have to look because I'm so curious. So what type of horses are they? I take it they're going to be like, try looking for race horses, for example. No, there's no adverts. I've got a feeling there's a ban on livestock. Yeah, Marty, unfortunately, you can't advertise horses on Google. So that puts paid to that. Yeah, I've got a feeling there is an overall ban on any type of animals being advertised on Google. So, for example, even if I was to look for, let's try looking for a golden retriever puppies, for example. Yeah, see, no ads there either. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it makes it a bit more difficult. Marty, you're probably better off sticking to the likes of, the Gumtree and places like that, unfortunately. Right, Samir says, oh, Sam, run a web hosting company and often get customers who are interested in AdWords. Will it help if I guide them to contact you directly? Sam, yes, it definitely would. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. We can either pop them on a webinar if we've got one coming up, or I can do an audit on their account or something like that, Sam. So yeah, that'd be fantastic. Margaret says, any exclusion words for skincare, as I don't want any unwanted sites linked? Yeah, you're going to need to do some substantial keyword research. There's none I can think of off the top of my head. You might be better off just literally just getting a few friends together and doing a quick brainstorm. You know, what keywords can you think of that people might come up with? And then use a keyword research tool and see if they come up with any nasty keywords as well. Yeah, that'd be my suggestions, Margaret. But yeah, I can see why you're worried about that. Mike says, any comments on Google Shopping? Well, I mean, I think Google Shopping's fantastic. So those product listing ads that we just looked at, what I tend to find people do is they lump them all in together and run it as just one. So they chuck the whole feed in together. And actually, there are better ways of advertising your products. You can actually divide out products by keyword and advertise only one product at a time. And you can then have negatives. So, for example, if you were selling wedding balloons, for example, and you didn't want somebody looking for anniversary balloons to see it, you would put the word anniversary in as a negative. The only way you can do that with product listing ads is if you actually divide the account out into each product, which is quite time consuming. So yes, it is. Google made it very easy, Mike, for you to just literally chuck up a merchant feed, stick it in, advertise all of your products all in one go. That's fantastic. It started working for a lot of business owners. They turned off the free form of Google Shopping to force us all to advertise. What's now happening is it's getting more and more competitive, and you now need to start doing more work, start dividing those products out, definitely. James says, how do I work out what are good keywords to use in the ad? James, you would do some keyword research. So we've not covered keyword research today. There's a number of different keyword tools you can use. You can use Word Tracker. There is a keywords tool within AdWords. You basically just type in your product or your service and it will come up with a list of hundreds of related keywords that you could use. And that's what you then create ad groups for each of those keywords. Fergal says, great webinar, thank you very much, Fergal. Does your membership go through how to select keywords from my site? Was wondering, as you said, I needed to figure out my keywords before setting up. Fergal, yes it does. So we have got keyword research, we have got links to the AdWords planner, and then I'm also investigating Word Tracker as well, which has a free version, so I'll be recording a video for alternatives as well very shortly. And the CEO there is helping me to make sure that we actually get Word Tracker working for AdWords people as well, because obviously to date it's been an SEO tool. So I'm meeting with him next week to help advise, to help make sure that Word Tracker works for AdWords people as well. So Norma says, are you open 24/7? Norma, no. If you want to call to place the order, I will be manning the phone lines, and we've got a call answering service who will also be manning it the rest of the time if you call outside of that time. Otherwise, I can take an order tomorrow. Norma, if you want to order by direct debit, and if you don't want to use PayPal, then that's fine. Then I can answer the phone tomorrow as well. Okay, so Graham says, I always click past the first 3 ads as I know they're adverts. Is it still beneficial to use Google Ads knowing a lot of people do this? Yeah, Graham, this is the thing is, even though you choose to ignore it, you've got to think that most people still do click ads. I get asked this a lot, and I can see why you would think it. Well, I don't click the ads, so why would anybody else do so? Because people do. It's been proven that people do. And while you might be in the small percentage of people that don't, it is your best, fastest way of getting in front of people so quickly. Set up an AdWords ad, you could be up and running in a couple of hours and getting leads in that quickly. It is so fast. Whereas you could work on organic SEO instead to get to the top organically. But, that's going to take you months, if not years, to achieve. So, you may as well pick up the majority of the market now, Graham. And that's my suggestion. And of course, remember, if you look on an iPhone, have you ever noticed how with an iPhone and probably a lot of other phones as well, the AdWords ads take up the majority of the screen? So really, on a phone, you will be getting the lion's share of clicks. You will be getting most of the traffic because Google has designed it so that the AdWords ads take up nearly all the space. So yeah, definitely worth doing on mobiles. Sabana says, what AdWords would you recommend for wall decals? Is that how you pronounce that? Transfers and stickers. So I've worked in this market before, Sabana, for a company called Newbie, who used to sell these type of items. So it would be normally as specific as you can get. So it might be something like children's heart stickers, or children's heart wall stickers. Quite long tail keywords, Sabana. Transfers, if it was, for example, let's say I've got a 3-year-old daughter, let's say I was looking for transfers to make a Peppa Pig scene for her, I might type in keywords like Peppa Pig wall scene or Peppa Pig wall stickers. So character specific and very long tail, so that they're as specific as you possibly can. What you don't want to be doing is advertising on just stickers, just transfers, or wall stickers. Anything too general, as that'll be where you waste a lot of money. Lionel says, would your system be useful for me as a new business? I'm a photographer doing portraits and commercial with separate sites, very new. Lionel, indeed, it would be perfect. I've worked with a number of photographers before, and 100% it definitely works for photographers. It's one of the ideal markets that it does work in. For keywords like portrait photographer, I don't know where you live, Lionel, but portrait photographer London, for example, commercial photographer London. We then set up lots more groups for every possible permutation. So you would set up portrait photographers in, so you can start to see that you then have multiple areas. What often also works is if you break it down even further and you have portrait photographers in, and then you have the district. So for example, you might have portrait photographers in Mayfair, because people will search very local. So that's how our campaigns get so huge, especially for local businesses, because we break it down really far. So that's why the setups take 4 hours, is obviously we set up hundreds of groups. It takes a very long time. So yes, indeed, it would work perfectly for you. Okay, so Andrew says, let me give an example. My website has time-based events. Should I create adverts for a period of time, so for 5 days before the advert, then remove? Yes, Andrew, you can actually set up an end date for a campaign. So you set up a campaign, you have an end date, which I'm very familiar with setting end dates because it's quite common to have a campaign with an end date for Christmas delivery, where obviously the campaign needs to end. You can't physically take any more e-commerce products after the 21st of December, for example, to ship for Christmas. So you quite simply set up a campaign with an end date, and yes, that would then work. James says, how long should I run an ad to find out if it is successful? Normally you would leave it for 100 clicks. I mean, ideally you will always want to set a test budget. So you'll want to run it a few weeks, keep tweaking it, keep testing it, adding new keywords. If you set it out as I teach, you will know within a few weeks very, very easily, as long as you spend enough budget on it, So if you're only going to spend a couple of pounds on it, then you might struggle. But if you spend £5 a day and you start getting leads in pretty much straight away, which is what should happen, then obviously you know pretty much straight away that it's working for you. Colm says, do the same principles apply to using ads to sell a product and using ads to promote a non-commercial website, such as an information or news website? They would be different keywords, but the principles are the same, yes. And you would probably also want to, I told everybody earlier to turn the display network off. You would probably want to consider using the display network in some cases, because it might be that you could find some websites or forums where people were interested in the news, for example, where you could then steal some of their traffic. So yes, it would still work for you. Hassan says, is it possible to target the right audience using AdWords? Hassan, no, unfortunately, you can't do a whole lot with audience targeting yet, although if Google had their way, they'd force us all to be logged into Google at any one point. Not in the same way as you can with Facebook. So with AdWords, you cannot target people between 18 to 20 that are single, for example, that type of thing. You unfortunately, you just need to use keywords that they might use. So no, there is no proper demographic targeting that works in AdWords yet. I'd be interested to see if they manage to get it in, but that really will be a case of if they manage to force us to use Google accounts, which I think they probably would have a battle getting that through. The information, all the countries are complaining already about the amount of info that Google have got. So I can't see that happening, to be honest. Pablo says, what are the organic results? They are these ones down here, which are not adverts. Okay, so the organic results are anything which is not AdWords. It's the adverts down here. Okay, so these are all organic results. And if I was to click this, it will not cost them. So they will not pay for that click. Mona says, how many AdWords ads would you recommend for a new business? It entirely depends on the market, but normally you would set up anywhere from, for a new client, we normally set up several hundred. So included in the offer, we would normally set up anywhere from several hundred up to several thousand new ads for you to get the best results, because you want to match it exactly. So you would have the singular, the plural, the word in. You can start to see that, so for example, Bristol florist, Bristol florists, florist in Bristol, florist in Clifton, Bristol. You can start to see how you can build very large accounts very quickly. Having said that, when you get started to test it with, when you're going through the red hot web leads and testing it, you will want to probably do a few at a time to check that you're on the right lines, and then maybe ask me to do an audit, that type of thing. Yaja says, do I need high quality words for recruitment based websites? Indeed. Recruitment's obviously a very competitive market, but you would want, it depends if you're targeting the job seekers or you're trying to target the people who are going to pay the bills, obviously. If it's the job seekers that you're testing, you would probably want things like, I don't know, accountancy jobs, Bristol, accountancy jobs, London, things like that. So again, I would try and go locally based would be a cheaper way. But yeah, you would need to do a fair amount of research before going ahead and setting the account live. Research your competitors very thoroughly, just to make sure that you've not missed anything, and don't bid on anything like recruitment, for example, or sales jobs. That's far too general. You want everything very, very specific. Norma says, how much do you need to spend on AdWords a month to keep the website on the top of Google? Now, this entirely depends. So you would set a daily budget that you're happy to spend. This can be anywhere from £50 a month all the way up to £50,000 a month. So I've got people who've bought the system who have got any level of spend in between. It really does depend. If you only wanted to appear at the top once a day, then £50 a month would be absolutely fine. If you've got a huge amount of traffic in your market, you probably want a couple of £1,000 a day. So, thousands of pounds a month. It does entirely depend on your market. Any ideas on how to promote wedding stationery, please, says Tracy. Well, I would be testing things like personalised wedding stationery, wedding stationery suppliers. I would be testing keywords like that. And Tracy, I would very carefully make sure on the website that you had created some good upsells so that you get, what you don't want is people coming in and just ordering a few pounds worth. You want related products showing on the site so that when they're there, they possibly upgrade and buy, I don't know, other personalized items as well, thank you cards or napkin rings or whatever people buy to go with wedding stationery, so that you upsell and get that order up as much as possible. And that means you can afford to spend more on AdWords. So look at it as a, a two-pronged attack. Get the sales value up at the same time as actually finding the keywords that work. Okay, so Michael says, if you offer various services, will you have to include all the aspects such as brand consultancy, business ideas, brands? What would you suggest would be the best way to go? Michael, I'd probably be testing keywords like brand consultant, branding agency, social media agency, social media consultant, things like that. So very specific keywords that people might type if they were looking for somebody that does what you do. What you don't want to do is bid on keywords that include how to. For example, how to rebrand a company or how to manage my brand on social media. Lots of people think, great, that's a really good keyword to bid on AdWords. But generally, if people are typing in how to do something, they're not willing to pay. The buying keywords that people would be using would be things like branding consultant London, branding agency London. Very specific. They are buying keywords. They are looking for somebody to solve their problem. David says, to change the default settings, where do I start from? You go into your campaign and then you go to settings here. Okay, so if I go back out to all online campaigns, that you can also do here, so you can control it on the left here and here. So all online campaigns, settings, and you then just click on the name of the campaigns. Okay, and it opens the settings for you, David. James says, how can you bypass the directory sites that dominate most Google listings? Yeah, fantastic question. It's actually fairly easy to do with AdWords and not quite so easy with SEO, funnily enough, because obviously with SEO they've got thousands of pages. They're often very highly ranked, so they tend to get in the way. With AdWords, you can get above them pretty much straight away, so AdWords is the way of getting around it very quickly. With the exceptions of things like if you were an estate agent coming up against Rightmove and Zoopla, the main directories in AdWords, that's going to be tough. You really would have to pick the more specific keywords that are going to bring you sales. Again, it's back to local keywords. So back to the estate agent suggestion I just said. So it might be estate agent Bristol, high-end estate agent Bristol, or it might be estate agency BS9, for location. You could even try, adding in postcodes like I just said then. So yeah, it is going to be more specific keywords and using AdWords rather than SEO. Right, Charmaine says, our question is, our company sells mobility aids. How do we get around mobility, as in mobile phone networks, and scooters, as in Lambretta, aside from negative keywords? Well, you would always make sure that you include mobility aids in the keywords, so never have just mobility. Let's go and have a look at some competitors. So let's try mobility aids Bristol, for example. Okay, so they've managed to get round it, Charmaine. So they follow the approach that I just said. Okay, so mobility aids Bristol for a local term would be fine. Okay, this one is also a Bristol-based one. This one is a national one. Mobility aids next day. So yes, it would be the longer tail keywords, always making sure that you have mobility aids in there. So I think Google probably can tell that mobility isn't to do with phones. And scooters, yeah, let me try seeing what comes up if I type in scooters. Yeah, that's going to be motorbike scooters, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So you wouldn't want to bid just on scooters. You're going to want to bid only on keywords like mobility scooters. Okay. Yeah. Mobility scooters brings up the right type of terms. Yeah. So you're going to have to be very specific with your keyword, Charmaine, basically. Nothing too short tail. You can't bid just on scooters or just mobility. And that should work, hopefully. So Michael says, company startup, such as company registration process, putting them in groups might not individually benefit individual searches or services required by a client. Yeah, Mike, I'm not sure if I answered that one previously. Maybe I read half the question, didn't fully. I think you're probably leading on from what you said previously, but I think I've missed what you mean there. Perhaps you could type in some more clarification if you still wanted me to answer anything there, if that's okay, Michael. Daniel says, is it a good idea to have a specific landing page to match the ad? Well, you don't want to go as far as having one landing page per keyword, because that's just going to get a bit, that's going to put all of you off the thought of having to create that many pages on your site. You probably could have, let's say you were an electrician and you covered Bristol, Bath, Cardiff. You might want to send all of the areas of Bristol, all of the keywords to do with Bristol to the Bristol page, anything to do with Cardiff to the Cardiff page, etc. And then you might also have categories of products. So, for example, anything to do with the pepper stickers like we were talking about earlier, those children's stickers. Anything to do with pepper wall stickers, you might want to send that to a pepper page. You probably don't want to always send them to a specific page on the site. At the end of the day, you probably want them to have some choice and to see more about you anyway. So it's got a bit more info on it rather than just one product, because you've got more chance of upselling to them as well. So yeah, pop a few on the landing page would be my suggestion. Right, Gabriella says, all right, I think I've spoken about that one. What type of keywords for children's interior design and soft furnishing? So I think I practically answered that one earlier, but yeah, it would be very specific, like children's princess beds, for example, something like that. My daughter's very into princess beds, as you can probably tell. And then things like children's white wardrobe, things like that. Very specific, include the colour would be my suggestion. What you don't want is anything like children's design, children's wardrobe. That's far too short, not specific enough. Kevin says, what about polo shirts across the whole of the UK, not centralised to an area? So in that case, let's imagine that I take it you mean personalised polo shirts. In fact, it's coming up already. So personalised polo shirts, that would be where I would suggest that you would start, Kevin. So personalised polo shirts, you're going to be coming up against these people here. So you can see that these guys here haven't even got the full keyword in. So there's definitely some room there for you to be able to overtake these guys, because it says embroidered polo shirts. It doesn't even say personalised polo shirts. This one here is the only one that's actually got it specifically in. So if you were to create more specific ads than them, then you should be able to overtake them fairly easily. So yeah, that would be my suggestion, is start off with personalised polo shirts and start doing some research around those keywords. Marty says, we've got competitors who use AdWords. How about equestrian services? This is back to the horses. Yeah, equestrian services. So, for example, let me see. Let's try looking for saddles, for example. Okay, now we've got none in the top three, but we've got some shopping results. And we've then got some more results here down the right-hand side. So yes, more specific. You probably would want something more specific than just saddles. So leather saddles, that type of thing. You can see what I mean. So basically I would then probably break it down to, let's say we wanted brown leather saddles. And then the same with any type of product. You would probably want, this would be the shortest type of keyword I would include. Brown leather saddles. Don't go any shorter than that as a new business, because it's just going to be too competitive. Okay, let me go back. How can I keep wooden Christmas decorations as cheap as possible, says Raina. Wooden Christmas decorations, I think of. I would probably be typing in things like wooden Christmas, and then I'm just looking to see what comes up here. So wooden Christmas decorations. Google's typing me out because I'm doing lots of searching and no clicking. So what have we got here? I'm just looking at the type of products we've got. So we've got wooden trees. Now the reason I'm looking here is I'm thinking maybe we need to be more specific rather than wooden Christmas decorations. Try wooden Christmas tree, and in fact I saw a good one there. Wooden Christmas tree ornaments or wooden Christmas tree decorations. Okay, so I would be trying whatever the wooden decoration is, such as a tree or a fir tree or a star or, or an angel, whatever it is, I would be using that as the keyword rather than wooden Christmas decorations. Again, you can start to see the theme I'm taking you all down with this is nothing too short tail, nothing too competitive, make it as specific as possible. So that would be my suggestions, Raina. Right, so Michaela, I hope I pronounced your name correctly there. I'm a wedding venue decorator in the Essex area. Wedding's going to be a very expensive keyword. Have you read any ads for this industry? Wedding photographers, yes. Wedding decorators, no. Let's try wedding. So wedding. Let's try looking for wedding planner. Okay, so I would wonder if you might actually be able to get in on some of the traffic for wedding planners, to be honest, because you could either add in the extra services or send, if you didn't only wanted to get involved in the decorating, you could work with a planner and pass them the work. Or you could actually just word the ad saying, looking for a wedding planner, assistance with wedding decoration, or book a beautiful wedding decorator now, that type of thing. So yes, wedding itself is an expensive word, but this would be my suggested tack, is keywords like this. Try and jump in on the wedding planner at Essex or wedding planner London type keywords, however far you're willing to travel. Jill, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, so Lionel says, I'm confused by the ad groups thing. Can you recap, please? So Lionel, let me just go and quickly demo it to you. Okay, so what I'm showing you is I've gone inside a campaign and I've started looking at lots and lots of different ad groups. You can see how far we break it down per product. Okay, so each ad group contains only one keyword. So you can see we've then got hundreds of ad groups for every possible permutation you can possibly think of. That's why you ideally need to use a system such as this, because while you can start out by just creating a handful yourself, eventually you're going to need to create lots, hundreds, to get the quality score up as high as possible. So the ad group contains the keywords and contains the advert for that keyword. Okay, so that's what an ad group means. Marty says, I've just searched for Irish horses for sale and there's ads down the right hand side. Great webinar, by the way. Let me go and check. Irish horses for sale. Right, now I've got no ads. Maybe it's, I take it you're in Ireland, so maybe it's just an England law? Not entirely sure, but fascinating. Yeah, so we've obviously got rules about advertising no livestock, so not entirely sure there. Claire, glad you enjoyed it. Lionel says, what is SEO? So SEO is the art of getting your website here. Okay, so without having to pay for every single click. So that's for Thursday, next week's webinar. Would it work for hypnotherapy in London? Yes, it most definitely would. Yes, with absolute certainty. So we've got somebody in our group who does hypnotherapy, and you would be bidding on keywords like hypnotherapist, and then let's try London, for example. So, and then your area name. Oh, it keeps kicking me out now. Okay, and you can see that we've then got, that's one of our former clients in the for my agency that I sold last year. So you can see that there are people that are bidding on Hypnotherapist London. Okay, so, but you can also see that there's some people who are advertising on stop smoking hypnotherapy. So that, again, that's not particularly specific, but you could go even more specific than them. And you could go to what type of hypnotherapists are there. So, in fact, I just saw one then. Insomnia Hypnotherapy London. Okay, and then we've then got somebody who's advertising specifically on insomnia. So again, for the different types of hypnotherapy that you offer as well, you could have different groups set up too. And as well as that, you could have hypnotherapist London, hypnotherapists London, hypnotherapist North London. Can you see it's giving us a big long list of keywords that would be a good starting point there if you're based in London, obviously, or whichever area is your area. Mike says, what are those puppy pictures at the top if not sponsored? Let's go and look. I must admit, I didn't notice those. Okay, now those are just image searches. Can you see that? So that's taken from, I don't know if you've ever clicked to go to images. Okay, so they're taken from here, the images. Okay, and there is, so Google are going to be changing it very soon so that you can actually put sponsored images in your ad and sponsored videos. So I'm going to be updating my system with how to do that as soon as that comes about, as soon as Google actually brings that out. But that's going to be very exciting when you can actually get the images and videos within your ads. That's going to be fantastic. Tina, no worries. Kevin says, is it illegal to use Zoopla as a keyword for an estate agent? Kevin, it's probably trademarked, I would think. And if it's not trademarked, it soon will be. So Google will most likely ban you from using Zoopla. So not a good idea. So no, I would probably be tempted to steer clear of it. So Sarah says, should we have each keyword classified as exact match to avoid the broad problem? So we've not mentioned exact and phrase and broad match today, but just very quickly, that might be a possible way around it. So yes, that would probably work, Sarah. Just scrolling through. Make sure I've answered all the questions, because some of them type them back in, because I've been going back to questions. Well, we've had hundreds of questions. Am I right in saying all keywords should have capital letters, says Sarah? Yes, indeed, at the start. So at the start of each word, so title case, indeed, yes. Sue says, could you re-clarify the purpose of inserting pluses in between words, please? It means you stop Google from having free rein to match it against anything it thinks is related, and you cut down the rubbish that Google matches it against. It is only allowed to match it against something it thinks is very, very related. Okay, so it'll save you, well, it'll save you hundreds of pounds. Pablo says, is it the same to set up a keyword like mobility scooter and its reverse scooter mobility? Now, we often do both because the click-through rate will differ. If people see it typed exactly as they typed it, they're more likely to click it. Sarah says, do you recommend using town or geography area in each keyword, such as satellite TV installation repair? Absolutely, yes. Yours would be perfect. So yours would be satellite TV installation, Cardiff or wherever you're from, satellite TV repair Cardiff, and all the districts within. So yes, that would definitely work for you, Sarah. Neil says pop songs have hooks, which is a phrase that sticks in the brain. There's some AdWords that are better hooks than others. You'll get used to doing this type of thing. So yes, there are some that kind of stick in your brain a bit better. Maybe they've got a really good question. Maybe they've got a really good testimonial. To be honest, you've got a fairly level playing field because there's so little space. You know, you've got a really good chance of competing against whoever's doing the big competitors' AdWords. So, you know, I would say give it your best shot. Keep writing new adverts. Always be trying to get the highest click-through rate that you possibly can. For some, I get a click-through rate of 100% because I'm the only one that's bothered to go to the extent of writing an advert for that specific keyword. And if you're the only one that's got the keyword in the advert that matches exactly what they think, you get 100% click-through rate. And I have got for loads and loads, and particularly for local areas, it is very easy to get 100% if you've gone to the trouble of setting up that many ads that it matches exactly what people type. Andrew, yes, that would be the broad match. Andrew's just asking whereabouts you would put that broad match. So yes, indeed, that would be it. Yaja says, I'm a bit thick. I'm sure you're not, Yaja. By adverts, do you mean just your website going up, or do I need to upload pictures like you see on billboards? Well, the adverts are just quite simply these things here that we saw earlier. Okay, so these are the adverts here. So the 3 here in the cream box and up to 8 down the right-hand side. And you don't need to upload pictures, but you will be able to. So when Google introduces it, that should be fairly soon, you should be able to start putting images and videos here next to your advert, and how fantastic that will be. Okay, so right, last question then. So Michael says, your thoughts on using competitors' names as keywords? Yeah, absolutely fantastic idea. You can bid on your competitors' terms. Lots of people do. What I wouldn't suggest you do is include their name or try and pretend that you are them in the advert. So I wouldn't suggest doing that, to be honest. But yeah, absolutely bid on their keywords. No harm with that, or bid on their name. So I just wanted to point out to you where you'll actually find the recording tomorrow as well. Now this page here that I have sent you, if you keep hold of that page, then what I'll do is that page will actually allow me to embed the video within it. So what I'll do is when you come back to this page, hopefully maybe later tonight if I can get it uploaded, if not tomorrow, depending on how long it takes the file to convert and upload, on this page here, what I will do is pop the video and it will appear here at the top. So there will actually be a recording just here. And the recording will stay up for the next couple of days. And I hope to see as many of you as possible on the webinar for next Thursday. I'll include the link in the email that I send out. So I'll see you on the SEO webinar next Thursday. Thank you very much. You've been a fantastic audience. Asked lots of great questions, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.